Welcome to the Canarian International Meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Mossy and I am an alcoholic.
And my name is Mick and I'm an alcoholic. We're both serving as your staff secretaries today. Please join us for a moment's silence to remember the still suffering alcoholic, both inside and outside this meeting. Yeah.
Roseanne is going to read the preamble.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Roseanne and I am an alcoholic, and this is the original version of the current preamble as it was introduced to AA in June 1947 in the Grapevine. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. AA has no dues or fees. It is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thank you for letting me be of service.
Thank you, Roseanne. And a warm welcome goes out to any newcomers or anyone returning to Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's it, folks. This, as you know, this evening is our old-timers meeting. And our speaker this evening is, I was to give him a call at 2:15 in the morning, Australian time, to get him up out of bed. And in true Alky fashion, he was up ahead of time. So he's had his breakfast. He's ready to go. 3 o'clock in the morning in Australia for Pops. Thanks a million, Pops, who celebrated 58 years there a few months ago. Thanks, Pops. Pops, you have 45, 50 minutes or whatever it takes. All righty.
Okay. When do you want me to start? Now? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then. Okie dokes. My name's Pop J. I'm from the border of Queensland and New South Wales in Australia, right on the border here. It's beautiful. What you see in the back of me here, that's how it is over here. That's where I live, and I love it here very, very much. I came up from Sydney and I came to here. My grandchildren, my own children, live up north in Queensland, and I go from here up there to visit them. I have 9 grandchildren, 8 great-grandchildren, and that's a blessing because I didn't have it before. I can tell you that, because my history of being an alcoholic and addict and all that sort of thing, because I came in here with multiple addictions when I came in here. I didn't even know what I had until I came into these rooms. And the people that I met in these rooms, if I picked something out, you know, they'd say, oh, what about the rest of these things, you know? And I said, oh my God, I thought these people are going to open me up here. And I said, look, whatever I say, I don't want it spread around anywhere. And they said, oh, you're right, you'll be okay. We're all in here together. Well, my journey commenced right back from when I was a little boy. My mother and father separated when I was 1, and I had no one. My grandmother was the one that was looking after me, and she used to make spirits and wines in those days when I was young, and so I used to ask her, you know, say, is this nice? And she'd say, come on, have a sip of it. And I got engaged into that at the age of 6 and 7. And at that time, I was going next door to the nuns' school at the Catholic school. And I used to have a couple of sips before I went to school there in the mornings. And when I'd get to school there, you know, I was sent home. And grandmother said, what are you home for? I said, because they reckon I'm a drunk. I said, what? And I said, they reckon because they could smell the alcohol on me, you know, and the kids were saying, you know, you've been drinking. And but at any rate, the thing is that drink became a very prominent thing for me, because I started to begin to get a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of fear. A lot of trauma was building up because of family problems and everything like that. It wasn't just one thing that took me down. It was a number of things, and I think you would understand it's a multitude of things. We could stay here and talk all day about all the things that took us down. And, you know, but when I come in here, my body was ruined. I was damaged, and I really meant I was damaged. Because, you know, when I was around about 15, the doctors were saying to me, look, you're on all these things, you know, you're drinking, you're taking these drugs and all that. Now we'll put you into this hospital and we'll see how you go. At any rate, I was the only one. I turned up at that hospital. It was a mental hospital in Sydney, one of the old time hospitals that's shut down now for the dreadful things they did to many people. If I'd have known that then, I would never have gone there. But the thing is that I went in there and I got in the front door, but when I looked back at the door, when it shut, it went a click, 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 and I looked back and I saw that there was no handle on the inside to open it up. I thought, God, you'd never get out of here. So at any rate, I was in there for 11 months, and in that 11 months, they put me through shock treatments. They put me on having hard drugs I really don't know what the heck they were doing, because they were doping me up completely. And I remember they used to have some breakout rooms, like padded cells type of thing, you know, and if you got out of it through, you know, you couldn't handle the way they were doing treatments and that, and you know, they'd bung you into this little place there, and you'd roll around for a while until you got better in yourself, and then you'd get out of there. Well, I was in there many, many times because I was very fearful. I thought I was damaged completely. I thought I'd never ever get out of this place. But at any rate, the thing is, I did get out after 11 months. I went back home, you know, and I thought, well, gosh, what am I going to do now, you know? So I went back out and I met some friends that I thought were friends of mine, but they weren't. They were really bad young people, you know. And they said, you just join us and you'll be all right. Stay with us. And they drank and took drugs, and they went around, they pilfered this and did that and the other, and I couldn't handle it. So what I used to do is I used to go home in order to forget a lot of things. I used to get into the my grandmother used to put the spirits in bottles and put them underneath the house to keep cool. And I used to always borrow one of the bottles, and I'd bring it up, and I'd indulge in that if I got myself into a bit of issues with my brain, you know, like thinking the worst of things. I'd have a couple of swips of that, and then I'd go to bed, you know. But that was my life, you know. Alcohol was the part that sort of tried to calm me down in those earlier years, you know, and things like that. But as I was growing up, it was getting worse. It was getting worse. I had to go to work. Growing up, I had to go to work, find a job, and do this and that and the other. And then the people who were at the works and that I used to go to, they used to say, well, young man, you come with us, we're going to the pub. I said, oh, no, I don't come to the pub, because I knew very well if I got in the pub, I'd never get out. And so anyway, come on. And I didn't want to get on the bad books with them, so I went, and you know, they could handle a glass and it'd sit there, and I thought to myself, what are they doing? Anyway, but I used to go around the corner to the other part of the bar, and I'd order another scotch or anything like that, and I'd have that, and so really I was sort of doing the turnaround, because I just couldn't sit there with one glass all that time that they were there. And so I tried to stay away from them if I could have, because, you know, for me, they weren't my kind of people there at that time. But I got away from that, and I've tried to bear with it. And then at times when I used to get home, because I used to drink a lot, I could never remember myself getting home. And I used to drive home too. I couldn't remember getting home. And in the mornings I couldn't remember. Sometimes they used to ring me up and they used to say, yeah, aren't you coming to work? I said, yeah, why? I said, oh, I thought, goodness, I said, I'm sorry. I tried to make excuses for why I didn't get there to them. And, but anyway, so no wonder they didn't sack me on the spot. But the fact is that that's what the alcohol did to me. I couldn't remember anything. I thought I was going crackers, completely crackers. And, you know, remembering where I was going, what I was doing. And my grandmother used to say to me, you don't look too well, she said, you better go to the doctors. And I said, no, they said, if I go to the doctors, they might put me away in that place again. I said, I don't want to go there again. And but anyway, it so happened that I got very sick one day. And yeah, they did. They stuck me in a hospital and they gave me more shock treatment, more drugs and everything. Like, oh my God. And I thought, but anyway, one day when I went up to have this shock treatment, they strapped me down and I said to him, please unleash me now, please. And they said, you can't, you've got to stay and have this. I said, let me go now. I said, or otherwise I'll get very angry. And I said, I've caused problems here. So they undid me and they said, well, if you do, well, don't come back. I said, no, I'm not coming back. So I walked down the stairs. I didn't go by lift because I was too scared. I went down the walkway down to the bottom and I went home. And when I got home, I indulged myself in booze. And I don't remember after that what happened. And that's what went on with me, you know. So booze ruled my life. It ruled my life. And one day I was in a park and along came this man and he said to me, now he knew my family. He knew my family. And he said, what are you doing here? He said, listen, he said, why don't you come with me up to this meeting up the road? I said, what is it? He said, if you come up there, he said, you will find what you're looking for. He said, you will. I said, but I said, I don't know what I'm looking for. He said, you'll find something. And at any rate, he went and because I shied off going and with him. And then a few days later, I decided it came into my head when he asked me to go to this meeting. Damn it, I said, I will go and see what he was talking about. Because I was getting to a point where I couldn't function in life anymore. I was getting really bad. And so I ended up going there to see this fella. And I said to him, hello. He said, oh, he said, come in. He said, come in. He said, welcome. He said, welcome. He said, welcome home. He said, to this fellowship. I said, what? I said, is this a church group? He said, no. He said, no, this is AA. And I said, well, what is it? He said, well, he said, there's this 12 steps of recovery. We work according to that. He said, do you see that first step there? He said, you just made that first step of recovery. You just came in that doorway. That was your first step, he said. And I said, my first step? He said, yeah. He said, now, he said, read it. Tell me what it says. I said, I'm powerless and my life was unmanageable. Well, when I saw that my life was unmanageable, that hit the nail on the head because that's exactly what it was. My life was totally unmanageable. And I said, is everybody like that in here? He said, yeah. He said, now listen, he said, sit here, he said, and listen to all the speakers. There was lots of people there. He said, sit down and listen to these people. And he said, and you'll identify with them. And then later he said, you can come up and talk to me. And I said, all right. So I sat down and listened to all of them. And you know, that was me to a T. That was me to a T. And there were some people in there that were there for many years. And they used to say, as time marches on, they said, you'll reach this point here as well. And I thought, oh, geez, you know, some were in there for many, many years. And anyway, I met one fella that was in there for a long time. And one lady that was in there, she was a nun, a sister at the Catholic school. She was a nun, but she used to get dressed up and go to the meetings. She was an alcoholic, her and her friend. And, you know, her and her friend and this other couple of people, they stuck by me, you know, they They really and truly stuck by me. They told me any time I wanted to go anywhere or anything, that to call upon them, and then they would help me. Wasn't on my own. They said, in this fellowship, you're not on your own. They said, you're here with all your family of people. They said, and in here, if you're not traveling too well, you speak up, and there's somebody in here that'll be able to help you out. And that's true. That it was true. Because you see, as time marched on, and we used to get into the cars, we used to go to meetings up north and to various places. I began to meet more and more people in face-to-face meetings. And, you know, and I've become very great friends with them. And they said, anytime you want to pick you up or anything, come up and see us. We'll be right. We're here. So I never had so many friends in my life, because you see, when I was a little boy at school, and this is how the fears and this is how the trauma hits you and everything. When I was a little boy, I used to see the mothers and fathers go around and pick up the kids and hug them and cuddle them at the school. And I thought, how come I can't have that? I don't know whether you can understand that, but I thought to myself, why can't I have that? You know, because you see, that was something that hit me hard, you know, because, you know, I find it that I've had it in these rooms here, and yet out there I didn't have it. I didn't have it. And I spoke about it at the meetings where I was, you know, and they said, well, they said that was the experience of your alcoholism, and your life. And they said to you, now they said you've made the first step in here, now you can change. And I said, how am I going to do that? And they said, all right. They said, you need to build yourself your foundation. I said, I don't know how to do that. They said, all right. They said, when you're ready, we can sit with you. We can talk to you, because we'll share our experience, how we did ours. And if you can identify with that, you know, you'll be able to begin to formulate your own, your foundation. And they used to say to me, a foundation, they said, you know what they build houses and flats and big skyscrapers and all that on? I said, yes. They said, well, that's a foundation. They said, if that foundation is weak, those buildings will come down. They said, that's the same thing with us. We have to build a strong foundation in order to recover. And I thought, oh. I said, but I'm always full of fear. And that's it. That's part of the journey of this foundation of yours. They said, that's building on blocks of ground and things like that. This is building on your self, you know, on human life and things like this. Is building here, because it all starts up here, and all this part here has to get better. And you start, because this is the one that you have to get right up there. Today, this one up here is quite healthy, actually. My doctor tells me that. He said, but the rest of the body is no good, because it's damaged completely. It's got cancer, it's got diabetes, it's got neuropathy, it's got heart problems, it's got everything. The box and dice from here down, it's got everything. But this part up here is the one that keeps me going. This is the one that controls my life. It tells me, don't do this or don't do that, and be very careful of this, and it guides me on the right road of recovery. It does. It wasn't easy at first, because you see, you know, nothing is easy. Nothing is easy, because you see, whatever happens in the day, something might come up and it mightn't be well, or whatever the case may be. Either one of the kids are not right, or something, or one of their animals is not right, or their work's not right, or something happens at home and everything like that, you know. That's an area where, you know, you tend to worry about it. And it's like a trigger type of thing, you know. But the thing is, what I began to do was that I had to begin to think about all these things, to think about self, to think about how I can recover within myself. How can I become to look in myself and say, okay, this is what I need to do for me to keep healthy and calm and okay. Today I can do all that. Today I can, you know, because the simple reason is today is that I've learned what it said in the book there. Learn to take responsibility. That responsibility was so vitally important. I had to do that. No matter how hard it was in life, things are not right all the time, and I had to face each way, everything that comes up in the day. If something comes up in the day, they said to me, get on that phone and ring up and talk to us. We're not going to tell you what to do or anything, but just ring up and talk to us, and let's see where you're at, or whatever the case may be. And I used to do that, but the trouble was that I never used to ring them up in the afternoons. I had to ring them up about 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the mornings. That's when I used to start to feel crook. And I used to say, I'm sorry, and they said, no, that's all right. They said, it's okay. They said, you're right. And they put up with me for a long time, like that, and but this fellowship can give you whatever you want. The miracles are in these rooms. I have seen over these 58 years that I've been here, I have seen so much happen to people that didn't accept the 12 steps of recovery, and things had gone wrong. Either they had family troubles, marital problems, work problems, kids problems, social problems, all those things like that. I've seen it in these rooms, and they're triggers. They cannot offset anything. And I've sat down, and I've been to the jails down here. Not here where I am, but down Sydney way. I went to the jails down there, and I used to go there into the hospitals, and I used to speak to the people there, and I used to love going into the jail and sitting there in their little jail little room and things like that, and talking to them there, and I was happy, because you see the biggest issue here we have, and that I had to learn myself, is that jails, institutions, and death. If I kept going the way I was going, one of those would take me, good and proper. And I had to be careful of that, because I used to hear it in the jails. I used to hear it in the hospitals. I used to hear it outside in various other places, and that's the various things, I've been to many people who have tried to commit suicide, because when I came into this fellowship, they said to me, now that you're here, start to begin to build a platform where you can do something for yourself. Where you couldn't aim for anything in life, try and see if you can aim for something. Well, I did. They took me to the places around down near Sydney there, and I used to go to all these colleges, and I used to apply to do various courses and that, and I used to go in for. And I applied, and I did, and I went in and I began to do them, and I got degrees for them. I went and I became a paramedic at one place in the school that I went to. I became a paramedic. I went into the hospitals. I went on the roads. I opened up my own, clinics that I wanted, because see, as you begin to rise above this, you start to move off in a different area. You don't go back to alcohol, you don't go back to your drugs, don't go back to anything else. You're living a new way of life, a new way of living. That's what I was doing. I was living a new way of life, and that, for me, that was good, because I was helping people, and being in the fellowship of AA and that, and all the other fellowships that I was with. I used to go around to sit with them and talk to them and help them as well. But you know why? Because when I'd hear them share their experience, that was me. I needed to hear that. I needed to hear where they came from. It's all right for me to talk about me, but I need to hear what the other people need to say, because that's where I get my message back from other people. They used to say in these rooms here, or over here, they said, when the pupil is ready, the teacher appears. And I thought, oh, that's good. I like that. When the pupil is ready, the teacher appears. I had to become that pupil. And the teacher was always here. How I know that teacher was there, because it was in amongst us all. Because when people used to share their experience in these rooms, they would say how they've been going good, how somehow they've been guided along this line and this, that, and the other. And I thought, well, that's that teacher. That's that teacher in all of us that guides us to move in many good ways and to change in life, you know. And that for me was so vitally important. That was very important for me. I say to new people in here, you know, people have been in here they gave me, when I first came in here, 5 years. 5 years they gave me, because they said, you will build that foundation in 5 years. You'll build something and you'll go for it. And that's what I did, you know. And, you know, so I can't look back. I can't look back in life to say that I never ever did this, because I did. And I'm 84 now, 84 years of age, and I'm, you know, I love my kids. As I said before, I've got 9 grandchildren, 8 grandchildren, more on the way. And but honestly, I love them when they come up. You know, I've always got those little ones in my arms. You know, the saddest, we have one that passed away. That's some 5 years ago. To my second eldest granddaughter. Geez, that nearly killed her, you know. But I'll tell you what, this program has taught me to stick by her. It has helped me to stay right beside her. And there were times when I used to say to her, come with me. And she used to say, where? I said, come with me, we'll go to a meeting. And she got and she met people in there, and she spoke to women in there, and she said, I enjoyed myself tonight. I said, well, that's all right. Why? Because you see, this fellowship gave solace and gave comfort to my family, you know, along those years. These years of what we have in here are very special, you know, because the newcomer, when they come in, have to build build from when they come in up to I reckon to about that 5 years, something like that, and begin to build that foundation. But they need the support of the members, the family that they've got in here, you know, because I was always told when I came in here, we're your family now, and we will help you. And I thought, well, that's good, and I accepted that. I accepted that, because all these people, and then, you know, I was never on Zoom before in my life, you know, and only up to about 5, 7 years, whatever time when this all started, I come onto Zoom. My granddaughter said, yeah, and you can go on Zoom now. And I used to get on the first Zoom rooms that they had, and they used to have, when Zoom said, because I opened up a Zoom meeting, and they said, oh, you can have a Zoom meeting yourself if you want. I said, well, how many people can have that? They said, you can have 50, 100, 500, and 1,000. Oh my God. I said, you're joking. They said, no. I said, well, I'd never be able to. They said, that'll go on your computer. And so I learned that I could go anywhere on Zoom around to see many people, up to 0, up to whatever the amount of people that were on these meetings. I was able to go on there, and I was able to share on there. And the amount of people that I met all around, whether it be UK or US or India, or I used to even go over to the what do they call that other place, in Ireland and all those places and various other places. Even I went to Russia one time, and I got in there by just a mistake that I put in an ID, and I got in there and said, whatever they said anyway, I can't remember it, but they said that this is a meeting, and then somebody come up and they said, oh, you're in a Russian meeting here, fellowship. I said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, no. They said, you stay, you can share. But I said, you won't understand me. Anyway, they said, you stay. And then I heard some people talk broken English, and and spoken in their own language. And then they asked me to share. And then I spoke, and at the end I thought to myself, well, I hope they understood what I was talking about. And then many people turned up and they said in the chat, they said, thank you for sharing your experience. And that really helped me tremendously, gave me a lot of support, knowing that I've got people all around the world that, can come to you and say, thank you, nice meeting you, and everything like that. Because the only way they can meet is on the chats. That's all we have. But thank God for that, because I can see that some people are in trucks and they're travelling along the highway, and you can see where they're going up and down these roads and everything, But you know what? It's taken me these rooms have taken me right away from alcohol and drugs. So have taken me. I go and see my doctor because I've got to see my doctor every fortnight. He told me I must go every fortnight because of all the ailments that I have. I've got to see him to be checked. And I go there, and he says, "You're going all right?" He said, "How's your Zoom room going?" I said, "Good." He said, "That's good." He said, "Remember, don't get yourself too over bearing on it so that you run yourself down." I said, "No." I said, "I don't." I said, "When I'm in there, I'm at home." I said, I'm happy with that." I said, and but I meet people in here who've got their own children. I've met so many families with their children. Even my grandchildren have been on here with me, and they've been in here and they've met the people who are in here too, and everything like that. And I'm on WhatsApp, and I'm able to go on WhatsApp around, and we talk to one another and everything like that. When we're downtown or down in the mall or something, wherever we are, I have gone past the courthouses, and I've seen young people there sitting on the side, ready to go in the courts. And I saw one fella the other day, and I said to him, "Are you all right?" I said, "You don't look too happy." He said, "No." He said, "I've got to go into court." He said, "I think I'll be going to jail." "Oh dear." I said, would you like me to sit with you for a minute and talk to you?" He said, he said, "I don't think you'd understand." I said, I said, "You want to believe I do understand." I said, "But I'll talk to you if you want me to." And he told me about he was on drugs and alcohol and all these other things, and how it caused him a lot of problems. And I said, "Look," I gave him my WhatsApp number. I said, "Any time," I said, "you can win." He said, "I don't know if I'll come out." He said, "Well," I said, "if you do," I said, you give me a call, and I said, "and we'll catch up." And that was so I left it at that, But he looked really worried and very fearful. But I remember the many other people were in our rooms, and they were people who had to go to court and everything like that. And I pulled them to the side and I said, "Do you mind if I talk to you?" And they said, "No." I said, "Listen," I said, "when you go in there," I said, and you're expressing your situation for what you've done," I said, "express the fact that something caused you to do that." He said, "I know what it was." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Alcohol." "Oh," I said, "Okay." Well, I said, "Well, then in that case," I said, "ask the judge personally, speak up, and ask him if he would put you into a treatment room, into a treatment place for a little while, and see if to see if he can help you there." And you know what? He had done that, and I've got word back from many people that I've said that to them, and they've come back and they said, "The judge put me into this place and the judge put me into that place." I said, "Good." I said, "Okay, you happy about that?" They said, "Yeah." You see, that's if we become honest and sincere in our fellowship and wanting to get better, miracles happen in here. They do. I have seen people get better. But you see, it's this head up here that gets cluttered up with so much rubbish all the time, because you see, the 8th and 9th step is the one that holds it inside. And that is the one we've got to always watch very carefully. You need to find somebody who's absolutely honest with you, trusting and everything like that, to be able to reveal whatever the case may be there. And that's very important. That's how I see it, So you see, this fellowship has the answers to all the things if you want it. I remember I used to listen to Bill Wilson in his documentaries, and he was alive when I first came in 1967, and Jimmy Kane, all them too, and a lot of other people. And I used to listen to them all, you know, and they used to have a wonderful attitude about how to approach things. Because you see, today, attitude plays a big role of whether we can get it or we don't get it. And I know some people come into the meetings over here and their attitude is all wrong. And then when they relapse, they say, "Well, I'm sorry, Pop, I didn't listen to you. I'm sorry." Well, I said, "Look," I said, "it's okay." I said, "You made a mistake now." I said, "Now begin to learn from this mistake. Learn from it. Get away from it. Find out what caused this mistake to happen." And these are the things that we have to always learn, that things don't happen for purpose. They happen for a reason that's there. And it's that reason that we have to go in and deal with it. And that I never thought I'd ever be able to do it. Because today I don't have to be afraid of anything. I can be upfront with things today. You know, I certainly don't ever want to go back, because I was a bad drunk and I was a bad person that took a lot of stuff. And the many things that happened to me in my past, oh my God. Like I have an encyclopedia that I can't even open up, because that's how crooked it is, you know. But at my age today, as the AA program says, acceptance is the answer to all of our problems. That's what I had to do. I had to accept what may in this program here. I had to accept everything. I had to accept the person who made the mistakes. I had to accept the person that went crook and everything like that. The person that wasn't functioning correctly, because you see, I had to begin to understand where they're at, because I was there myself. So I had to begin to understand. I had to learn so many things in life of where the newcomer is and and the old timer is, and because the newcomer and the old timer, there's a beginning and an end type of thing up the other end, and I have to learn the both sides of them. And today I'm up this end, and I'm looking down, and I can see where they're at, and I can sit with them and I can talk to them. But sometimes some of them don't want to talk, because you see, the fear that absolutely annihilates the person is horrendous. It's bad. But the thing is that I always say, I'm here for you at any time. Ring me up any time. I know many of them have gone out and they've committed suicide. They've hung themselves. You know, and I've attended, when I was working with the paramedical field, I've had to go to a lot of people who committed suicide, and a lot of people that drank too much and alcohol took them, and they went. You know, I've seen a lot of it. You know, and that's one area that I'm glad that I learned from the people in the fellowship to build a foundation for myself and to aim for something that was good, you know, for myself. Because you see, the life is very special and it can be lived happily, you know. You can enjoy life, you can. And I know that looking back over my time now, I can honestly say that my journey, my experience of where I came from was my teacher to help me where I am today. It's helped me to understand me, the issues that I've been through, the problems I went through, and how I ended up getting out of them by having trustful people and everything. I learned so much, you see. So it's good, you know. It's wonderful, you know, that we've got a lot here to learn, and that's, you know. So see, you know, that's what it is. If you want what we've got, as the book says here, and willing to go to any length to get it, you can have it. and I really mean that. You can have it, because it says in the bottom of the of our chapter 5 of the big book there, it says, no human power can relieve you from alcoholism. No human power. But God could and would be restored. That's why Bill Wilson had that spiritual realm in here, because they must have had that very, it was there in those early days. The spirit of getting through various areas in our lives was so vitally important, very important. Because you see, when I look at it today, I don't know how long I've got after, like I've got 84 years, but how long will I got? I hope I stay another 20 years, I hope. But the thing is, because my mother, she died about 3 years ago, she was 104. So I hope I'll last a few more years here, because I enjoy coming in here and meeting you and being with you here, that's how special it is for me. Because, never ever say to yourselves, no good, because I don't see that. I can see, when I look at you, I can see the good person there, and that's what I look at. I don't look at if a person's not feeling good or anything like that. I still see the good person that's there. That's what's important for me. Because I believe that every person I've met in AA or NA or Drugs Anonymous or Grow or the places we've got over here that I go to, I see good people. And they're all trying to work the 12 steps of recovery to recover from whatever the problem is in their lives. And with that, it's great. It's good. So you see, I've only got a couple of minutes to go, and but I'll say this. I can see Maury looking at the clock. I know I've only got a few minutes, Maury, I know. But the thing is I love talking to you because, you're beautiful people, and, and you've got beautiful families. I saw Kathleen's little girl there, and I've got a granddaughter her age and her name and that, and it's, when I see this in these rooms here, that fills me a lot of hope, gives me a lot of love inside myself. And this is the thing that I'll say. Coming into this fellowship here, you will develop love, forgiveness, understanding, compassion, and everything else, all the good qualities in that. But you've got to work with them, because you see, we can't have procrastination, resentments, or any of those dreadful attitudes that we come in here with or anything like that. We've got to get rid of them and replace them with the good things, because love will get you better in any which way. Sometimes with love, you have to go through the horrors of life. Sometimes you have to cry. Sometimes you have to go through pain. Because when people love something, they'd be surprised how much pain. And when we drink a lot and we feel that pain, we're making ourselves worse inside ourselves. I remember that. I used to cry when I used to drink a lot, because I used to say, how am I going to get down to this? What am I going to do? I can't handle it. But I never knew that one day a man would find me in the park and ask me to come to these meetings, But that's the life that we lead along the line here. And when you come into these rooms, and I'll close on this, pain and tolerance, are two wonderful gifts. Tolerance is a very important thing in here. Patience and tolerance. They're two gifts in here, because they'll help you to deal with life, and it does, So I was trying to think of something, but I can't remember it. But when you come in here and you share that, like I've got all these years under my belt, I've got so many things that I could say. And when you want to say it, it doesn't come out. It doesn't come out. Oh my gosh, I need a hit in the head. But anyway, the thing is, I know that you all know this, but what I'll close by saying on this is that if you're new in here, you come in and share your experience where you are. Don't be afraid, and I mean that. I know I see people in here. I can see your faces, and I can see how you're responding, because I've learned so much out of all these years that I can see you, and I can and I understand. I understand. And but if you come in here, share that experience with you. And if you have something deeper in that, find somebody that you can see and hear and you can relate to and you can trust. Get their WhatsApp phone number or whatever the case may be and contact them. I do. They ring me from UK, US, India, everywhere. They ring me up and they wake me up, but I never put the phone down on them. And they talk to me and they say, you know, I wanted to talk to you about this or that. Yeah, fine. I sit on the side of the bed and I talk to them. You know, I never let anybody down. Because you know why? Because they've never let me down in these rooms either. Those people who are in here did the good things by me and never ever let me down. They're always there. I can't say how grateful I am. So if you want what we've got in this room here, work on those 12 steps of recovery. And it says on here in today, the only requirement for today is to stop that drinking and drugging and everything like that and begin to formulate a new foundation and grow. You know, where you couldn't grow before, today you can. Because you've got people who can understand you in here, people who will love you in here unconditionally. I have to put that in, unconditionally, because you see, that's very important. When we love somebody in here, it's unconditional. And that's very important because we know we can trust that person and we can share to the bottom pits of our heart and let it all go. And we know that that person will always be there for us, no matter what. So you see, so I hope you all have a happy week and things like that. And if you get a chance to come in and say hello, I'd love to hear from you. I really would. And I love you all. You look after yourself, Alex. Okay, bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Pop. I really enjoyed your share. I want to thank you, number one, for getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning. 3 o'clock in the morning for you now. It's I want to thank you for your service and for your story. I got so much from it. You know, one of the things that stood out was you spoke about laying the foundation. And I never built a wall until I got sober. And when I did, the block layer said to me, dig it a foot down and a foot wide and about 6 inches down. And this was just a boundary wall with my neighbour. So I dig it down about 2 foot and about 2 foot wide. And the wall is still there. My neighbour is gone, but the wall is still there, you know. And I began to understand by, you know, people showing me and carrying me about laying the foundation. I was told get 90 meetings in 90 days. And in 90 days, I went up to my sponsor. This guy, well, it's not my sponsor. He inflicted his sponsorship on me. I went up, and I'm a real smart arse, Pop. And I said, well, 90 days sober, 180 meetings. I thought I was going to get a medal. I said, what do I do now? He said, do it again, Mossy. That's all I got off him, do it again. And that's what I did. I got meetings. I began to trust people. And you spoke about that trust. And trust is built on. I began to hang out with like-minded people. And it's been an amazing journey for me. I'm only a young fella. Do you know what I mean? I'm only 36 years clean and sober. So I have a bit to go yet. But it's given me a lovely life, you know, and you've seen my granddaughter on the screen there. My kids have been reared in the fellowship. My grandkids have been reared in the fellowship. They know what it's all about. And that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be a secret. And no matter where I go, I'm surrounded by love. And it's because of this fellowship. So that's it from me. Pops, again, I thank you. And I know you have your own meeting on at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday. So I'll visit that next Tuesday and I'll post it up on our WhatsApp group as well. Take it away there, Mick.
Thanks, Mossy. Pops, thank you. Hello, me talk. Thank you, Pops. That was fantastic. I enjoyed it. When I came into this fellowship, I was full of fear, you know, because I thought if I tell you who I am, what I am, and where I came from, you wouldn't like me. And I did, and you loved me for it, you know. And as you said, it's the people of the fellowship. They gather around you and they talk to you, and you know. And I liked it. I liked the life that you've given me today. You know, and you know, you shared about different groups and that. My wife was Al-Anon for 40 years. And when she got ill, the group I was in, one of the groups I was in, because Al-Anon was upstairs and she couldn't go up the stairs, they said, well, you sit in here with us, Orphy, and we'll make you an honorary member of this fellowship. And they did. And she loved it, you know, because we got to love so many people in this fellowship. As you say, it's a family. And when someone gets ill, we're there for them if they want it, you know. And I remember thinking one day, I can have anything I want if I am willing to work for it. And I didn't miss much from work, time off work, because I worked in a brewery, and that's where I got my fix every day, you know. But it's a nice meeting here.
That's it, guys. I think we'll wrap it up for this evening. And the promises are being read here.
Okay, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thanks, Alice, and well done on joining us today and doing the promises. And thanks, Roseanne, for doing the promises. Mick and my timekeeper, Kathleen, and everyone else that's doing service. And a big thanks to you, Pops. We'll wrap this up and you can get back to sleep there. There you go, Mick.
Right. We have our meetings on 7 days a week at 8:30 UK time. We also have a lunchtime meeting on every Sunday at 1 p.m. UK time. This is a meditation meeting. Over to you, Moss. On Saturday.
Yeah. Yes, and on Saturdays at 6 p.m. we have our old timers meeting, an extended share recorded for the archives. And Thursday evenings we have a meeting at 7:30 p.m. UK time. We use the same meeting code for all our meetings.
Stick around after the for fellowship after the meeting. If you want a breakout room after the meeting, please let the host know.
And that's it. The yellow card, guys. Who you see here?
What you hear here,
When you leave here.
let it stay here.
And that's it, Pops. Will you lead us out with the serenity prayer? Please. And again, thanks for your service.
Yes, thank you.
Let us stop and think of the sick and suffering alcoholic that's still out there and the one who's in these rooms and finding it a little bit hard to work the program. And let us close with the God of our understanding. God,
God,
grant
grant
us
us
the
the
good everything can change.
Courage to
Courage
change
to change
and
and
wisdom
wisdom to
to
know
know
the
the
difference. Thank you.
Bye.